We can hear you, Bruce. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sage and Suzanne, for that introduction. And thank you to SOCAP for inviting us to participate. Happy New Year to everyone. We're really enjoying our partnership with SOCAP and want to make 2025 a breakout year in terms of activity and value for SOCAP. And a couple of years ago, one of the things the SOCAP board found from its members was really a crying need for good training, which mirrors our own survey research. It's a chronic pain point for many centers, and at entry level, agents get task specific training, but often don't get compelling soft skills training. And then higher up the line, workforce managers, quality specialists, and supervisors are often promoted into their positions, but they don't get comprehensive training. And they're often limited by the on-the-job training that they receive. And what we found was even managers find themselves installed without adequate preparation. And there's a real need for more training and retraining. So there was a committee of SOCAP directors that was charged to find a training partner for the organization, which fit the items that are shown on this slide, which is actually a SOCAP slide. And they found close to 30 companies that offer courses or certifications in the contact center area. And after extensive review, they brought several options to the board. And they wanted to have a partner that would really work with SOCAP to grow this area. And in the end, the board selected BenchmarkPortal with our curricula for all levels of contact center people. And so this was really a great honor for us. And for those who don't know us, here's a very quick overview. We started as a student project, actually, back in 1995, sponsored by IBM at Purdue University, and doing the first ever benchmarking of call centers and collecting performance metrics. So there's a lot of water that's gone under the bridge. We've learned a lot in the meantime and had a lot of fun with this industry. And we do training, benchmarking, certification, consulting, assessments. And now we are the training partner for SOCAP. And the feedback we've received for these courses has been overwhelmingly positive, which has been great, but many SOCAP members still have not used the courses yet. So we decided to make an offer you can't refuse to get everyone to try it. And so stay to the end of the presentation and you'll hear a really special offer. Okay, well, let's jump into today's topic on training. And I'm going to stretch you a bit in terms of thinking and conceptualizing of training with the end in mind, developing high-performing contact center teams. And I will ask you to make liberal use of the chat function. So please react to the things I talk about and ask any questions you may have. In fact, I'll create some friendly competition by telling you that the two participants on this call who chat the most will win free agent on-demand courses. So get those mind gears churning and those fingers ready. Sage will be working with my colleague, Alan Potcotter, who will be the judge of who the winners are. I obviously in this can't follow all the chats real time, but I will respond to anything I don't cover if I've got an email address for the participant. And as you consider some of the points I make, some of which will be decidedly off the beaten path, always keep in mind the reason for optimizing your training and retraining strategies and programs, which is to develop and maintain a high-performing contact center team. And I don't mean high-performing according to the standards of 25 years ago, right? I mean high-performing in today's fast-moving customer experience landscape of higher expectations. Now, I've been asked not to harp on AI in training. Okay, a lot of people are over the top with artificial intelligence, and I can understand that. However, just know that anyone who's interested in talking more about AI can call me directly afterwards. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Now, training, whether it's done with or without AI, is not, as shown in the first bullet point here, just for the transferal of information from instructor to learner. It inculcates and supports an optimal culture in the call center, which in turn supports the enterprise culture. And I find that most managers don't think about this. And I ask you, do you think about this? Please comment in the chat. I'd love to see what you have to say. Now, everyone agrees that a great culture supports high-performing teams. Yet, not many draw the line connecting training and culture. So I'd encourage you to think about this and review your training curriculum to see where you could embed more culture elements. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's repetition of your mission statement, and hopefully you have one. If you don't, please work with your senior managers to get one. Have stories about founders and great colleagues, stories of epic calls, that made the difference in the lives of customers. Stories about employees who advanced through the ranks and left a legacy. We'll talk a little bit more on this later. But also, training should promote lifelong learning. Of course, yes, they need to master specific material, but they should also be encouraged to be curious and to ask questions. And this is important, they should learn in training that coaching for development is a positive thing that they should embrace, not an embarrassing put down that they should resent and shy away from. This is a big deal. If you have somebody who starts from the beginning thinking positively about new material and taking coaching the right way, then that's a big deal. So definitely include materials. For example, a talk by an agent who comes into the classroom, or online if it's a virtual classroom, or a video which puts training and coaching on a pedestal and makes them really attractive as participatory sports instead of, again, this thing that's out there and that's there to beat you down. And let me know in the chat if you do this already, or if you find this a good idea that you'd like to use going forward. Now, the note here tells a hard truth for some of the centers. Training should not and cannot be used as a fig leaf to cover over real deficits in your knowledge management or other technology and process gaps. There are too many centers where the tribal knowledge of tenured employees, plus the training that teaches how to use chewing gum and paper clips to get around technology problems, is the norm. And this is a use, but a misuse, really, of training. So you need to think about getting the help you need to determine how to use good technology and good processes to optimize your training so that the whole thing together really gives the best service possible, okay? Some additional themes that should feature in your training. Don't foster an us versus them attitudes that builds silos, okay, in terms of departments in your enterprise. Use the training to emphasize that you're all on the same team, regardless of your department designation. You should model, as a leader, openness and show how reaching across silos has solved problems and improved performance in specific situations. Now, be honest. Do you do this now? Tell me about that in the chat. I know it's not always easy to do, but it's a good thing to do. And I said I wouldn't mention AI too much, but if your center uses AI, then use training to inculcate a positive attitude toward leveraging AI assistance. In other words, working with it and making better results for customers and for everyone. And then, finally, always keep in mind the two big, hairy themes in training, which are to develop and maintain a high-performing contact center team to keep you competitive across channels, okay, multi-channel world in particular. And always aim at success of your agents and your enterprise. If there are any questions that I should address now, I'd be happy to do that. Otherwise, I'll keep going. So I'll just wait to be interrupted. Many of the training related presentations, if we take a step back, that I've heard, okay, start with the assumption that you have the people you have in the center without questioning how they got there. So I encourage you to take a whiteboard to this issue. After all, as important as what you train is who you train. And many centers mess up by simply hiring the wrong people to begin with. So hire the right people. I mean, I just had a conversation yesterday where the person said, we hired 20, 16 show up, only 12 make it through training. And so I started asking about how selective they were in hiring. Well, it turns out they weren't as we dug into it. And it wasn't that they didn't have candidates. They did. What they didn't have were effective processes to screen people properly. So if you want training to have the biggest impact on your success, then start by hiring the kinds of people who will benefit the most and get the most out of the training you give them. And will use that training, obviously, to benefit your customers and your enterprise. And as we just heard, it's only January 15th, right? So you still have time to make a New Year's resolution, to make a critical review of your hiring processes, do some early spring cleaning now, and let me know what you think about this in the chat. Please do give me your ideas. Okay, and let me give you some quick hints also in this regard, because job descriptions can often have a bigger punch than you think that they can. And I just ask everyone here, when was the last time you reviewed and revised your job descriptions? I can feel some red faces out there, but that's not unusual. So don't feel badly about it, just do something about it. Could you take some of the items we've been talking about here and incorporate them into your job descriptions to attract a better quality of candidate to get into your training? Also, I just ask, how many of you are dealing with at-home trainees? Because there are extra challenges here. Hey, some managers have even found themselves having screened one person and then finding out it's actually different from the person that they hired, and it's their friend or sibling who's at the desk getting training to work. It is kind of a crazy world out there, folks. But that aside, for at-home job descriptions, you may want to add items like experience working remotely or on solo projects for extended periods of time, right? Comfortable learning, communicating, and socializing through digital channels like Teams or Slack, okay? You might also have, quote, comfortable turning on and keeping cameras on during meetings, unquote. And I apologize, my camera, for some reason, decided not to work on this thing, but I am here. So there you have it. So I also included here at the end generational sensitivity in hiring and in training. So remember that different messages have different hooks for people of different generations. And we don't want to overgeneralize on this. We just want to be sensitive to it. So reread your messages a few times, taking on the personas of the different generations in your hiring pool. And then tailor the messages accordingly. And you can go online and look up, different characteristics of different generational groups and think about this. If you do that currently, please let me know. I'd love to co-author a blog piece with you on this because I think it's fascinating stuff. And finally, note that referrals from other employees are generally higher quality candidates. They have higher employee satisfaction, and they stay longer than new hires from other sources like job boards. And they're also less expensive too, because there's less turnover, and they tend to get a lot of information from the person who's referred them. So keep all of those things in mind and use them, leverage them if you can. So I've written screening for your trainees, but of course I mean screening for your employees, because before they're employees working productively for you. They are your trainees, and they need to be successful in this first important step. And you are responsible for setting them up for success by responsibly selecting those most likely to succeed. So think of yourself in that aspect. Okay? You are responsible for setting them up for success by responsibly selecting those most likely to succeed. And use filters that are appropriate for the role. The voice channel is different from email or chat channel. Some people are really good at writing with good grammar. Other people talk really well. But use tests that are available in the market and that fit your needs. And you may have something that you can tailor for yourself that you know is going to be spot on for what you need. So there are tools that can identify 4 types of core personality traits. And this also helps you to decide who to select. And also, after selection, helps supervisors to get to know their new teams more quickly and helps team members to acclimate with each other more quickly. So if you add testing of upload, download speeds during live interview processes for people who are working remotely, oftentimes candidates may not actually be able to meet the company's requirement for these upload, download speeds. And it's really better to discover that during the selection process. And then there's the whole area of realistic job previews, either through automated scenario software or watching videos or otherwise. These are great ways to let the candidates know what they're getting into and allow them to screen themselves out if it's not a good fit. And this can save a lot of time and money and help out big time with regard to attrition. So all these things are things that hopefully will be useful to you in doing a nice review of what you're doing now and what you could be doing in the future. Okay, then we talk about onboarding. So, I mentioned this as well because onboarding has become a period for pre-training for some operations. It's also a very scary period of time because you can lose the people you thought you hired between the time they accept and the day orientation and training actually starts. Okay, I'm sure we've all had this problem of ghosting. So, you can start getting messages across and start from the moment of acceptance, really. There's oftentimes a 10 to 15 day gap between the time of hire, acceptance, and the actual start of live orientation. But keep in mind that new hires will, in many cases, continue to get job offers and inquiries. So it's critical for management to create, schedule, and deliver good content relating to onboarding activities to kind of build up the momentum and the excitement around the new job that these people are coming into. Because it makes new hires feel really welcome when you do that. So think about this, make them feel the love, feel your culture, feel the excitement of coming on board with you so that they have a really positive internal feeling about what this is all going to be. And be sure to have some sort of communication every day while awaiting the first day of training. Okay, so come up with the scripts, come up with the things so that you are basically taking these people who are pre-training and getting them into training mode so that they are feeling part of you right away. Then during onboarding, use video testimonials from current agents to tell the stories that you want to tell. If you want to talk about that, that's something that I'd love to talk to you about. Examples also can include anything from the inspirational to the mundane. Things like how payroll works, so that they have a sense of how this is going to work going forward, how scheduling works, what to expect on day one of live orientation. How people can communicate in team chats and how particularly those who are virtual agents can show up and contribute when they're remote employees. So again, can you make new hires feel truly welcome and build excitement about the role they'll be taking on? Are you doing that now? A question for you. Then, with regard to, initial training, once formal training actually begins, use multiple formats to keep things interesting and keep people absorbing the information you are providing. So this includes an appropriate combination of in-person classroom synchronous learning for everyone, or if your trainees are remote, then live online training. Obviously, set the ground rules regarding being on time, set a positive tone by greeting people as they arrive or log on, okay? Don't just sort of be that, if you're a trainer listening to this now, don't just be that presence in front, okay? But not the one who anybody could see sitting down with. Because I'm sure you all use name cards for classroom situations, and let at-home agents know that they need to have their cameras on and their names on, and participate as if they were in person. Very, very important. And in addition to the theoretical information and those vignettes that you tell them as an instructor, you should also use role playing wherever possible. So hey Cindy, let's say I called in and told you how upset I am about your product failing after only 8 uses. Okay, what words would you use to say to me? Okay, and put it that way so that they aren't saying, well, I kind of tell you this or I kind of tell you that. No, 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 no. That's not what you're looking for. Is talk to me like we're on the phone together. What are the words that you are going to say to me? And that oftentimes, evokes discomfort on the part of the person at first. But, this is the way to learn. And if they have seen a couple of vignettes on videos, they perhaps seen 2 trainers do it with each other, then it will be easier for them to do too. Or for instance, quote, Marco, let's practice what you would say to a caller who called in to report on the passing of their elderly mother, unquote. Okay, so that's a situation that will oftentimes come up in life insurance cases, and where it's really important that that empathy comes through and that you talk about that and how to do that. And then after this, we got gamification. That's a topic for a whole separate webinar. But, suffice to say here, the training can present some really excellent opportunities to build spirit and enthusiasm for advancement through acquiring skills and demonstrating those skills. So continuing on, and just so that you know, I think there's about 10 minutes more, 12 minutes more that I have here, and then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. So I'm looking forward to that. So continuing on, training materials, of course, include PowerPoint slides and written materials. Nothing new here, but I find that video materials are underused. And they can be of the type of 5-minute videos focused on single theme, such as active listening, how to handle difficult callers. And we actually have something on our site which is free and which you can access to find these sorts of videos. And there also, you may want longer videos that can be watched in an asynchronous fashion by the trainee during time when they're not actually in the classroom, etc. So these are all things to do, and make sure that you've got the right mix for your situation, so that it keeps it interesting, fresh, and something that people are absorbing. For material that's gathered in discrete modules, of course, you could always use learning best practices by telling people, what they will learn, why it's important, and how it will help them in their career. So that's the what's in it for me component here. And, very important to make sure you've got all those things. And some more tips. As I said, use short vignettes of real reps from various demographic groups to share insights, stories, workflows, their experiences, whatever it is that you're trying to describe. Use agents, okay, interested in training and building those skills to do some of the live lectures where appropriate. Change speakers often. Keep the live lectures, excuse me, fairly brief, 15 to 20 minutes maximum. And for role plays, it's a good idea to intentionally put people together that can benefit from forging early day relationships. This can be especially important for at-home workers where, you want them to have those early time relationships. Might be, 3 people with similar schedules, people in the same team, people with the same skill set, etc. And then don't forget tests and recognition tests in order to show that they do have the skills that you want them to have. And of course, there's a great satisfaction that comes by being trained, having the test, being certified in something, or at least, having that check mark, and then being recognized for it. That's an important part of this whole experience. And you might just take a step back and say, how well are we doing that right now? And could we be doing it better? So, a few more words on remote agent training, because I know that pretty much everybody has to deal with that. And I'm really interested to hear what people have to say in chat. There's virtual, at-home agents. I would ask you, are your training managers ready to manage and support remote teams? By that, have they been trained to do that? Have the training managers been trained to do that? Prepare supervisors to lead remote and mixed teams, and also sort of think about how to establish leader routines so that during training, people understand what the routine is and they don't feel like they're being taken by surprise all the time. And then, what are the critical competencies you're trying to get across? Let them know. Technologies and expertise, coaching and professional development, social activities, etc. And these are all important for, being ready and properly trained for all these things. And again, both at the level of the trainer and at the level of the trainee. So, also wherever possible, provide agendas in advance so people know what they're going to be doing. Then you yourself as the trainer, obviously thoroughly prepare. You want to be able to facilitate the conversation to engage people. And then, in the case of remote learning every 3 to 5 minutes, you want to make sure you're engaging somebody at home so that it's not just you droning on. And again, use employees to share content, use the right technology, because when you've got technology that works, because when you have problems in the classroom or on Zoom, it can be very disruptive and injurious to the process. You don't want this to take away from the wonderful content that you've spent so much time developing and want to get across to people. And the other thing that I find really is extremely useful is to ask people to write down their eye openers or takeaways as they see and hear them. Okay. And so as they're going through their training day, they should be writing down the things that they're going to be taking away or things that they hadn't thought of that were really eye openers for them. And then you go around the room and at the end of the session, ask people to recount the items that they wrote down. Now, this does a number of things. A, it keeps them awake and alert during the course of the day. It will also help to fix the concepts in their minds, right? Because they're writing them down and sort of putting them in front of their own face. And it will underline that this content is important information to be retained and not simply stuff to wash over them, right? and the acknowledgement out loud by one of their trainee colleagues that certain information was important to them is also something that causes the other trainees to stop and think about something that perhaps they hadn't entirely grasped, and it will fix that concept in their minds going forward. So really, there's multiple advantages to this, and I'd encourage everybody to do it and to go around the room at the end of the session, the end of the day, whatever fits properly with your things, so that you can get the richness of learning from the folks there. And this slide really just leveraging technology to personalize the training experience. So that this covers a real broad spectrum, because personalization, quote unquote, can go all the way from fairly basic stuff like taking online course modules in a self-paced manner. Okay, self-paced, so that's personalized. Or having single subject articles or videos pushed to the person by the instructor. And it can go that there all the way to more sophisticated training that involves AI systems interacting with the trainee, providing answers, offering judgments about how well the agent performed, etc. So, but the idea is to, first of all, in your own eyes, see the person as an individual, and B, figure out what it is that can be optimizing their learning experience by making things personalized. And then, basically as time goes on and as your strategy and your technology evolve, being able to keep that in mind so that you get the most out of it. So here I talk about staggered or sequential training, which occurs when employees are trained up for simple tasks to begin with. So they're tested, put into nesting situations with IVR branching that send, in the case of the voice channel, only calls to them that they've been trained for. And this gives them the opportunity to start taking calls without feeling overwhelmed. And while they're in a nesting environment where they're getting really good support by their trainers and supervisors. And then after they prove themselves competent at the easy tasks that they've been trained for, they go back to the classroom for more training so that they can handle more difficult calls going forward. But they've had that experience of actually talking to customers. And so this is, a technique for ongoing skills development and, retaining people so that they don't get scared and leave. And also helps you keep the team agile and adaptable. So now let's talk about, training after initial training. So ongoing training. We'll focus on agents again, but really contact center professionals at all levels should be kept on your radar for additional training as situation changes, needs increase, and simply sometimes you don't want them to get stale. You want them to feel another jolt by giving them some positive jolt by giving them some additional training. So let's think about the types of retraining that there are. One is reinforcement training. Two is new material training. And three is new skills training. So with regard to reinforcement training, this is actually repeat training. You should ask yourself, why? Why are you having to do this? Are you actually using the most effective training methods in initial training? Or is the material objectively tough? Or is it fairly easy, but it just isn't sticking in people's heads because the training approach is not adequate, or because you don't have the right people there? I mean, just think about all these things. And these may be situations where using micro-learning modules would be useful. Also consider, are you quizzing or testing often enough? Are you using interactive coaching enough? How about role-playing? Role-playing, it's a real gift to doing that well. But you may need to train your trainers to be better at role-playing, but I think it's really worth the effort. So then there's the new material training. This is like initial training, but it's not really. okay? Your people have context at this point. They can hone in on the substance of materials to be taught, and they can slot in the new information into the right mental cubbyhole, I'll call it, right? So they understand where things need to go. And then there's the new skills training, and this goes beyond new materials. And it may include totally different subject area or training on new technology or something like that. And so, in a sense, it's like, initial training for something new. So be sure and provide testing to be sure your people have understood and absorbed the new information. And I'll just give you two other thoughts here. That is, if you are doing remedial training, can you figure out what insights need to be brought back to initial training and incorporated into the curriculum here? This may save you from having to do remedial training with future generations of people. And going back even more to the roots, do your recruiting and hiring parameters need to be reviewed and changed? Is it the case that you're still not hiring the right people and need to address this fact? Okay, so, what is engagement? It's the extent to which employees are willing to contribute to the company's success. It's important to your culture, important to your success. I'm underlining it here because I want this webinar and training to include the broader context that I mentioned at the beginning. All of it's aimed at helping you develop and maintain a high-performing contact-centered team. So be personally involved in the interactions, be visible and supportive. People like exposure to leaders like yourselves. They observe how you as leaders interact, how you make decisions, what your values are. They pick up on these things. It's important. And then, experience sharing and networking. There are centers where everybody keeps things to themselves, and others where the conversation is open and flowing and helpful in terms of sharing experiences, creating networks that bring everybody up and result in better performance. And this is healthy. So I think it also fits a trend that I've seen in our industry and our society over the last 25 years. People were simply more reticent a quarter century ago. Then people started writing articles and books in an informal manner about how they felt about being on the front lines of customer service, things that went badly, things that went well. These were helpful developments. I'm not saying that you should be striving for a nonstop therapy session in your interactions in your call center, but just that encouraging an environment of sharing and networking is a positive thing. So, team building activities are important, and do it the right way for your audience. Things that may work well for Gen Z folks may fall flat with Gen X folks, etc. One-to-one sessions are really good. I can tell you about situations where I've gone into one company with two different sites, and in one case, it's very buttoned down, and I talked to the agents. The agents didn't even know who the head of the call center was, and somebody said, "Oh, is that the woman who walks across the floor and goes into her office every day and doesn't say anything to anybody?" And then I went into another one where they had just the opposite, situation, and the person who was the head of the center regularly sat down for lunch with people from all over the center, and there was really good, interactions there. So I'll just mention a couple other things here. Obviously, recognition and rewards are important, contests, and the volunteer activities. There can be some people, particularly younger people. I'll tell you a story from one in Florida where the agent said, what I love about this company is that they give us a day off a year that's paid for helping out with a nonprofit. And I now have a relationship with that nonprofit. It adds so much to my life, and I'm really grateful to the company for having done that for me. So, things to consider. So, another thing is action advisory boards, where you actually get people involved, give them 2 or 3 initiatives per quarter to work on, and change the reps on a regular basis. So the other thing is employee engagement is sometimes the small things, like doing the things that you see here. I won't go through them all, but you can think about yourself put yourself in that position and you're trainers. Are they doing these sorts of things? So anyway, what I'd like to do now is to outline some special offers that we have because, we think, and everybody knows, that training is a keystone for cultivating and cultivating the right people and really building the strongest centers possible. And we have this relationship with the folks at SOCAP. We want this to be taken advantage of more. And so we're making some extraordinary offers here. So these are the courses that we offer. First one is for manager certification. The second one is supervisor, is quality assurance, workforce management, coaching for performance, agent certification, and also an agent soft skills course. And you can go on our website and look these up. There's descriptions of all of these that I won't go through here, but you can see all of that stuff there. So then, in terms of the special offers, there's a BOGO. So that's buy one, get one free. And so for the next 60 days, okay, you get a free second course, the same course, for every course purchased in the next 60 days. So pay for only one course, okay, when you go online to do it. But then in the order notes section, write BOGO. And Alan Potcotted, who's my colleague, who's also on this webinar, will see that. And so you only pay for one, but he will give you two. And SOCAP members should also use the promo code SOCAP, and they will get the added discount, which is 10% off of list price. So it's a smoking deal. The other one is the one that I came up with down here below called the Lucky 7. If you sign up for all 7 courses in the next 60 days, in addition to the BOGO, we'll give you an additional 7 agent soft skills courses without charge. And in that case, just to make sure that all works, just write to alan@benchmarkportal.com. Easy to remember, but you can write it down. And he will make sure that you get signed up for this. Because we really do want everyone on this call, and in fact, everyone in SOCAP, to have this opportunity. And then what we also want is to work with you to become an enterprise user, which is have your work with you and your training experts to have all of your contact center employees take our certified courses at the right time in their development at a price you can afford. So you're going to find us to be very flexible on that and really desirous of having an ongoing relationship with you that's really beneficial to you. And then there's the final thing, which is we'd be happy to moderate a regular SOCAP conference call for training professionals, say once every 2 months. We'll gather input on hot topics. We'll publish an agenda. We will go out to everybody, and basically we'll start things off with some research and thoughts that we have, and then turn it over to you guys to talk about training issues that you have, sharing best practices. So let us know if you're interested in the chat, but in addition, we'll be surveying everyone, and we'll be sending out an invitation for the first meeting to be held toward the end of February. No charge for this. This is just a good sharing opportunity. So thank you very much for your attention and participation. Sage and Alan will be working to determine the winners of the free courses, and they'll be informed tomorrow by email. And we do need to have your email addresses in order to get in touch with you. So reach out to Alan at benchmarkportal.com if you're not sure you have the email addresses. So over to you guys. What questions?
I don't think there's any questions so far.
Okay.
I have a question, if you want me to kick it off. Sage. Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much. This is Denise Vinieri. Oops, a little bit of an echo. I was seeing in the chat, we were folks were talking about knowledge management systems, right? I'm familiar with those. And then other separate systems for training. And just wanted to understand, and if you already talked about this, I apologize. because I was busy looking at the chat. Do you have a point of view on, I mean, obviously you're selling training, but should this training and knowledge base be one tool?
Actually,
Or, yeah, go ahead.
so the thing about knowledge base is that it's extremely important. It can be more or less sophisticated in terms of whether it's something that the agent uses, basically has to prompt in order to get information. All the way to things where the system is listening to the call and pushes things to you with using AI as well. And all those things are interesting. And as I mentioned, I'd be happy to talk to anybody about those. And so, I see all those as extremely, they're very important that you get the right combination so that, again, you have the best functioning center possible. And you train people up to be able to work with the system that you have and, not be resentful of it or push back on it. So it's a key part of it in training. Okay, so this is basically on training. But in training, what we need to do is to make sure that whatever knowledge management, whatever KMS you've got, is well presented to the agents and they feel comfortable and competent using it. And to the extent that it's problematic, that's one of those times you need to go back and decide whether you need to take a look at your technology again. Does that answer your question, Denise?
Thank you.
Okay. But yeah, that's a great question and really important one.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions?
Anything else come out of the chat?
No, don't think so, but we'll definitely tally up those comments to see who is the winner. Oh, we have one question from Natasha in the chat. She says, we are a small yet mighty team, 10 to 12 agents, and we are in need of a learning management system. Where should we start to research, find possible solutions for small call centers?
Right. Okay. So for, again, learning management systems, there's a good number of them out there. And I would get Alan involved in that conversation because he's even more up on them than I am. But yeah, you need to have one that is going to meet your needs in terms of being able to load in the information that you want. It's going to have the flexibility of being able to change when you need it to. And you have to be able to be master of the learning management system and not have it be the master of you, because it's too rigid. So yeah, I would look up online. I would get in touch with us on the side because we actually don't want to do a lot in terms of mentioning specific vendors, but be happy to talk with you about that and work with you on that. Okay.
Thank you.
And
Looks like
just to know, there are a lot of smaller centers that are in similar situations and who have been able to get great benefit from upping the ante with regard to learning management.
awesome. All right, it looks like we have a question from Gina Diaz. She wants to know, what is your take on internal training versus external trainings? Should these all be one and the same, as well as platform-wise for housing the trainings and knowledge?
Okay, so in terms of content, the internal training is very important, obviously, for specific knowledge that is that agents need to have for what you do. The external tends to be for things like soft skills or generalized skills. And it's actually good to have a mix of those things because that way you get the benefit of internal knowledge and, the legacy, right?
She says external meaning vendors.
Vendors, yeah. And then on the other hand, with regard to vendors should be bringing you the kinds of things that are not necessarily specific to your internal need, your internal information. So it's rare that unless you spend a lot of time and money with them, that they are going to get to know the information that has to be passed for specific company information compared to you guys, right? Whereas for generalized information, that is, what are the skills you need in order to be a good manager, the skills you need to be a good workforce manager or QA person or agent, supervisor, etc. Those skills can be, you can go to external sources for, external vendor sources for, like this. I mean, what we want you to do is to feel like these courses that we're offering are internal to you, because, and also internal to SOCAP. We want you to feel that way about it. But you can go other places as well. And in that case, you get the benefit of the broader perspective that comes from external vendors for things that are more generalized instead of sort of information specific for your product, your company. Does that make sense? So
I think so, yes.
A mix is good.
And then Gina, in the next few days, we'll be giving you guys the recording via email. You're very welcome. All right, and I think one last question. Barbara wants to know, how do we sign up for the biweekly training professional community calls?
Okay, you'll be getting an email on that. As long as we have your email address, you'll be getting an email for that, and we'll have the first one toward the end of February. And I very much look forward to that. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with it. And, you know, everybody who's in a specific function in a contact center, particularly managers of anything, know that it's lonely at the top, right? And the nice thing about organizations like SOCAP is it brings you together with other people who do the stuff you do and face the same problems. And so that's what the idea here is. And so I hope that people find real benefit from it.
Yes, absolutely. All right, do we have any other questions? All right, doesn't look like it. Well, thank you so much, Bruce. And we also want to thank BenchmarkPortal for this incredible webinar. Such a wealth of information, and thank you for being one of our great partners. Also, guys, don't forget we have an upcoming webinar. I have it in the chat with a link. It's Delta Faucet. It's from Qualtrics. I can't speak. I'm so sorry. So be sure to check that out. And then, as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email us, and we'll be sending out an email with this recording in the next few days. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.